Okay, so cool. Um, yeah. Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be doing three things. This one in particular is just going to be a tutorial on translating sites, but I'm also going to be recording two other videos, so it's going to be a little bit of a chain. So, I'm kind of doing this because I want to show everyone some cool tools to use to read um, mostly everything pertaining to translation in terms of like just reading digital files online. Um, Basically, just to be able to read foreign sites and foreign languages. Um, the language I'm primarily going to stick to is Chinese because that's the one I have the most experience in. Although theoretically, these tools should be able to work with pretty much any language in general. Okay, so yeah, most of you probably can figure out how to translate on your own, but I'm just going to be showing an expedited version of my experiences with translation. If I sound a little scripted, that's because it is. I'm just trying to be more organized and clear because historically I've not been so organized, even with the script. And so I'm going to be probably posting these series of videos on my BTS, behind the scenes channel, and Internet Archive channels. And I'm still debating on whether to post on a main one, as that's generally more for video essay stuff. And yeah, maybe I'll just make it unlisted and sleep on it, I guess. Maybe post in the future, make a poll or something. So yeah, that's the introduction. I'm probably going to put a timestamp here, and let's get into this. So let's take a look here. So this is is probably one of the sites that a lot of people use for translating, right? So when translating, everyone likes to think of translating engines and machines. And I primarily use four sites, and there's plenty of translations going on manually and physically. You can do it the old-fashioned way, which is hit the books, learn I think about 2,000 Chinese characters, and then just try and go at it slowly and surely. That's like the best way to do it. But if you're trying to do it on the quick and go, the internet has really enabled a lot of translation software. So I'm currently pulling up four that a lot of people use. One is Google Translate. One is Microsoft Translate. You have DeepL, which is one I encountered that's pretty good, and the Baidu search engine, which is the Google of China, the Baidu Google, the Baidu Translate engine. So yeah, so that's that in no particular order. Just really quickly testing some of the features of it. You can see generally it'll detect language. It'll give you a whole list of languages. Each company or each company or organization supports their own. So let's just input some stuff in. Yeah. Um, Whoops, I need to turn on my Chinese character spelling. So yep. Uh, me, So and then okay, so yeah, so those are some cool stuff. Wa say just wow. Cao ni ma is just grass mud horse. If you read on web novels, you kind of know where I'm coming from. And then 66666 is an internet language. I'll probably be going that into another video. This is just a video on translation sites. And so just to quickly test a couple things out, some features you might not know for translating is that it'll also take documents as well of any type, and it'll actually translate sites. So let's take a look at the first site we'll translate, which is going to be, this is the Baidu Wikipedia art. This is the Baidu's equivalent of Wikipedia, or the Chinese equivalent of Wikipedia, which is just Baidu. So this is a Baidu site on just the country of China as a whole. We'll take that. You'll post it into the whoops. You'll post it into the language thing. Obviously, I'm still on the tech language, but you can obviously set it. And then if you click on this link, it'll take you to the site. It'll translate it. You can view the translation and the original. I don't think they've changed the site too much, although on the back end they probably did. I know Google tried to source a translation to some helpful folks on the internet, and they tried to open source it. But yeah, so that's one feature of Google Translation. Now, another feature I'd actually like to mention really quickly is So that's the translation site. Yeah, okay, that's the translation site. I'll quickly show people another thing in a little bit. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'll just do it again, and then I'll probably just re-record it again. So, oh, whoops, wrong site. So say you're on a Google site. Yeah, no, I don't want to mess around with this too much. Yeah, I was wondering why it's like that. So say the reason why I choose. Okay, the reason why I'm using Chrome is because I find Chrome has the nicest extensions for translation. But this the translation browser tabs can also work for Edge as well. Firefox does not have a built-in support. You'd probably have to get a translate extension. It exists on Firefox if you know what you're doing with extensions, but otherwise Google has most of the stuff built in already. So right here, if you go into a foreign site, they'll have a tab, right? And next there'll be a translate this page icon. You'll click on it and you can translate. It'll try and identify the language and translate it to probably English. I don't know if it goes to other things. You can also choose another language, always translate, never translate this site, and cool stuff. Especially if you're reading, this is really helpful for just reading, um, say, web novels in particular, or on whatever site you decide to choose. And with that, you've really enabled just a lot of different things. I think it works for Japanese. I've tested it a little bit on reading like Japanese pufferfish, and then Korean. I think it works decently well on, but it's a little bit difficult to say. So yeah, so that's Google Translate. That's the sites. Next, we're gonna go to Bing. So Bing is really nice. Probably have to switch this around to English because this is an English type thing. And it works quite nicely. Um, Obviously, I can just type in the same thing again, and it'll probably give me the same result, maybe slightly differently because the database or the backend is a little bit different. But for the most part, most of these translations are going to be very similar. If you don't know a term, then thing. As you can see, they translated "wase" as "wow, sir." And we're just going to translate another site, which is probably going to be in another video, on a different document. Is this the one I wanted to translate? Give me a sec. I'm pulling up my script. No, actually, I wanted to pull up the the computation of pi. Yeah, I originally wanted to do computation of pi because there's an interesting fact on thing. That page is already in English. So the cool thing about I really like the Microsoft. I historically use Chrome and the Google Translate just because that's the one I use most often. But I find that the Microsoft Web Translate is just super powerful. They have such a nice interface. Like Chrome has like the largest user base and like thing, but you will be surprised at how accessible the tools are on Microsoft. It's kind of like programmers why a lot of programmers like to use Linux, even though like the more supported one is like Mac and a little bit of Windows. Microsoft, they're like they're not so far into tech like Mozilla and Firefox, but they're also not like super mainstream like Chrome. I find like Microsoft is a great middle ground. They're a little bit more on the tech side, but they're really tech savvy and really they have a really good tool support just from their like platform to their window browsers. So a cool thing about their translation site is you can translate it, I think, into other languages as well, right? So this is the English site. Boom, automatically translated to Chinese. Now, obviously, Wikipedia, you can go to the Chinese site by like typing like .zn, right? Because um, that's the Chinese Wikipedia site. And there's also .zh, and .cn. Those are some of the Chinese domains. But that's really cool. And so it's really cool how not only could you translate from Chinese to English, but you can also translate from English into other languages as well. And you could send them this link and it'll auto translate it for you. So yeah, so that's the the Bing Microsoft Translator. I generally call it Bing because it's under their search engine Bing.com, but it is technically Microsoft. Really, really powerful stuff. I really enjoy it. Yeah, I'm I have extra browser tabs just to in case like I go offline or something. But overall, it should be fine. It also sucks because it also means I'm only doing this one way. I get like one chance. I'm just gonna show DeepL. Look at their site. I don't really use it that much. I'm not experienced with it, but they do have a native application, and you're welcome to check it out. I've heard a lot of translators and whatnot like to use it. All of these are free, by the way, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, I don't have much to say about it because I don't really use it a lot, but I've heard is really, really powerful. I don't use it because I'm an amateur user and I'm comfortable with the tools I already use. So then we have the Baidu one. Baidu is historically probably the weakest out of all of them, but they're all still super powerful. But if there's something you don't know Chinese and you find that the most of the regular translation sites aren't getting it right, I suggest you go to Baidu because any site written by the Chinese, which is Baidu, um, yeah, Baidu is its own company, a BAT company. Um, any site written by the Chinese is great at translating their own language. Like Google and Microsoft is obviously the best language they can translate from into is probably English because they're English, they're American or just U.S. English-based companies, and so English translation is English is pretty well used. So they have a lot of English users and database people that they probably have to poach from Chinese companies or just poach from native talents. Well, Baidu, because it's based in China, it's probably got a lot of Chinese translators and just a lot of Chinese backend data on the scene. So Baidu is really quite powerful. Now, I'm not going to get too much into translation. The one thing that I find lacking about Baidu is, besides it being slightly old on the older side, they're probably still getting a lot of support though, is the fact that unlike Bing and Google, there's no ping. Oh, actually, there is pinging. Oh yeah, see, so when you type in long sentences, there's no pinging, right? Like, because this is a Chinese site for Chinese users. Obviously, Chinese people don't really need to use ping. They already know how to pronounce it. But you could still hear audio. You can still hear the audio. I'll quickly enable the audio, desktop audio.
他是好人，他是好人。He's a good man.
And so you'll find that the Chinese sites, they don't have a pinging on it. But yeah, their pronunciation is generally on point, much better than Google and Bing, and their translations are much more direct as well. So for this one, we'll use the other site that I prepared, which is this is for a video that I'm also recording as well, which is going to be the here going over my hero graphics one. So this is obviously translating from Chinese to English, right? And then you can see this is a really cool guy that I did research on. So yeah, on my heroes one, I also wanted to cover, which was really cool. You'll notice a lot of. Give me a sec. You'll notice a lot of Indian and Asian Indian and Asian mathematicians. I was kind of surprised at how much progress the Asians made. And then later on, a lot of Europeans discovered some of the later digits of pi. Really cool stuff. Pretty sure Wikipedia is CC. So yeah, that's Bing's super cool and super useful translation site. Although you may find it a little bit slow just due to certain factors. Okay, now going into some of the more complex stuff. That's like that's maybe like tier 1, tier 2 levels of complexity. Now we're going into tier 3 levels of complexity, which is translating images, right? Now there's some really cool stuff, right? So I'm just going to a random Baidu page, just one about like heroes and Xi Jinping, which is the president of China at the moment. And as you can see, this is a really long text image. I'd have trouble reading it because I can't reach my Chinese level isn't too proficient. How do you read an image like this? Well, obviously we're going to copy the image address. You can also pull up Inspector if you know what you're doing. And then you're going to copy that image, paste it into the search bar, and that'll pull up this long text document. So yeah, that's that right there. The next thing you're going to want to do is get the Google Translate extension. Now, by itself, Chrome has one built in, but you'll find that having the Google Translate extension is super useful. And I'll show you why later. Because sometimes you want the Google Translate extension to you want the Google Translate to pop up, and Google just not recognizing the Chinese characters. You'll see why this is super powerful in a little bit. So we're gonna get that extension down. Just making sure everything's fine. So we've got the pop-up message. Yeah, there's some other extensions that I have. Um, so we have the site, we have the extension. Great. Yeah. Now we're gonna go to this site. This is what we call an OCR site. I don't quite remember what OCR stands for. Let me quickly search that up. Optical character recognition. Yes, yes, yes. It's an OCR site. There's plenty of free ones out there. The most powerful one I've seen, independent, of course, is going to be this one, this really unassuming name, translating images dot site. Now, you can explore the site a little bit on your own time. Tools, I'm just going to quickly thing. And I don't know who's doing this, but this guy's really, really, really cool. Now, one of the amazing things about him is the fact that he's using Google's Vision API, which is one of Google's deep translation devices, and Microsoft's Translate API, because he finds those are really powerful. API stands for can't remember what API stands for. I'm gonna go back to English, by the way. Application Programming Interface. Yeah, it's an interface where you just talk directly to the servers. I'll go on a short tangent about that in a little bit. Hopefully this works. If not, I'm gonna be a little sad. That's unfortunate. Okay, so I'll probably have to come back to that or just record another bit as well. But yeah, I'll leave a little bit of this video blank, a little bit of it black. So give me a second as I maybe pull this up in a little bit. No, that's really unfortunate. I was hoping that it would work. Oh well, we make do with what we got. So yeah, quickly pause. Okay, so actually I'll pull it up real quick. So the time, actually I'll do a quick timestamp in video blank. Timestamp to here, and then just that'll make it easier for video editing. So finally, the connection timed out, and I can actually show you guys what this was. There's the 2-hour thing. This is the base link. We're then going to go into the photo that we pulled from it by doing the save images. You're going to paste the link here, or you can choose a file from your computer. Obviously, there's a quota, right? It's slowly translating the image. And this is why you're going to want the Google Translate extension, right? So obviously, the way that he programmed the API is that it can't exceed a count of 1,000. So you might want to have to chunk it up. But what OCR images do is it recognizes pages. And I acknowledge what this does and what this will do to certain sites, but as I say, these tools exist out there, and if people want to use it, then people want to use it. I do apologize for making it more accessible. And I know, some people are angry at a specific guy for pulling up the cult. How do I put this without not exposing? Well, I mean, this is such an obscure YouTube video that it probably won't matter. And by that time, it'll be outdated anyway. But I'm talking about the blank video cult of music. And yeah, you definitely shouldn't mention it. It'll come up in your recommended. If you watched the specific video by Trash Taste, or you've heard of it, or you search it up on the YouTube site thing. I didn't report the video because I don't. I feel like that's not my thing. But if someone wants to show that, then that's their prerogative. But yeah, and I do apologize for making this tool more accessible. But as they say with the atomic bomb, the tools exist out there, and it's up for people to use them. Yeah, I enable more people and make them more accessible. But I feel like on the whole, I think the people that actually use this for good will probably will help me out in the karmic balance of stuff. Anyway, so back to Google Translate. Sorry for the heavy topics. Back to Google Translate. If you go to here, yeah, obviously it'll translate whatever you highlighted. But as you can see, there's the translate icon is missing because it doesn't recognize this. So these are all Chinese characters. You can press the Microsoft translator. You can use the built-in translator. But here's what I found, which is really useful. Translate this page, right? Look at this. Watch this, watch this, watch this. Boom. These text boxes are auto-translated for you. And you can read images, right? If you have an image, theoretically, this could work with Chinese manga. And what that means for because some people just want to read the raws and they can't read Jap, and obviously the site probably could even work with Japanese as well. So that really opens up a range of options for translation. But you can actually read Chinese images, provided that you actually have access to the photos, of course. but yeah, with that, I really use this only for reading web novels on certain sites. That I won't mention or hesitate. And the reason why I'm on one with theirs because I did, and I admit to that. No, I don't admit to that. I admit to nothing. That was a misspeaking on my part. Probably cut this out. Um, yeah, no, I'll have to definitely cut. Okay. Well, I don't want to think too much about that. But yeah, I don't admit to anything. Frack. Okay. So yeah, so that's all the text, and you can actually read the translated text because of that Chrome extension, right? Because before you'd have to do it slowly one by one, and it got super annoying. But if you do want to translate text, make it a Google Doc or whatever, that's a very powerful tool to just get the English text. You highlight it, copy, paste, copy, paste. It's so powerful. Like I knew that translation was powerful because what it did is enable instead of enabling like just various people of the various language to use to share information and data, what it really allows is for people around the world instead of like just allowing the only certain people of a certain language to communicate with certain people of a certain language. Translation devices like these really allow for much more cross-cultural um, it closes cross-cultural barriers and it really allows the 70 billion people around the world to communicate. Obviously there's going to be more complications due to education, socioeconomic status, but translation really opens doors, right? Because if you look at the history of 1980s China and whatnot, okay, if you look at the history of 1980s China and whatnot, you'll find that a lot of those sites a lot of one major factor in industrialization is you have to be able to read foreign texts, right? A lot of Chinese college level graduate students, professors, even like deans of the colleges and and just researchers themselves would read overseas documents. Even now in the U.S., we read German research and engineering documents, right? Because why? Because good mathematical there's so many good German mathematicians and German engineers that the Americans want to study from. We want to study, or even the British people want to study from as well. We want to study French agriculture and medicine because they're just so powerful. And so that's just some of the cool reasons why translation is just so powerful and why I really enjoy features like these. Yeah, and it's really cool on the API stuff as well. So yeah, that really covers that for this. Okay, I'll just have to remember to come back to that and insert the why we got the extension. Um, but yeah, what it does is it'll go through the entire page and it will yeah, generally it'll go through the entire page and it will translate it and then you can hover over and get the text there and that's why you downloaded the extension. So yeah, I'm gonna leave this up just because I'm gonna probably return to this, and if by the time I'm done with recording the video and I come back to this, it should still be there. But in terms of the API stuff, which is really cool, I was doing some backend stuff on YouTube, of course, trying to like back up playlists and channels and whatnot, and I was getting. I originally thought it was just gonna be maybe a 30-minute thing until I realized how complex the API is. There's a bunch of APIs with a bunch of languages. Generally, most people use Java, Python, PHP is pretty well used, JavaScript, Node.js. Really, a lot of sites out there that really use the APIs to do a various set of things. And then yeah, so this is the site if you want to actually code anything or do anything crazy, really complex stuff, and like there are sites that are built UI wise to do that for you. And then this is their YouTube one where they go into a lot of this stuff. You'll find that it's super dense and kind of difficult to understand. Like this site is arguably in terms of UI better, and in certain times the UI is kind of worse in the fact that like sometimes when you're trying to pull up the API Explorer, it covers part of the screen, which is kind of annoying. Like there's no thing. I mean, you can go to the show code, but then you can't read the stuff in the background. So I was just really annoyed at that. But if you're looking to back up your YouTube channel or anything of the sort, or just the API, I don't recommend use. There are sites that do that for you. But the site that you're looking for, if you're trying to back up a YouTube channel, if you're trying to download your videos, or if you want to access anything of the sort, is a Google Takeout. Google Takeout is super useful. I don't know how long it's going to be used or when it's going to be deprecated, which means they stop supporting it. But at the moment, Google Takeout is the strongest and most powerful tool I have found to archive and just back up your YouTube channel. Just it'll take all of your videos, all of your discussions, pretty much everything. I'm not really signed in because thing. And then I also discovered this really cool thing that Mozilla had their own email server, which was really interesting. Now it just reminded me of the fact that back in the day, Japanese I think it was from Tech. It was a video from Tech Culture where it mentioned that Japanese phones used to be like really high tech. They would have their own email servers. Each Japanese phone company would have their own email servers. But until like I think one company got the bright idea to have public emails. I think it was like maybe like Yahoo or Google that the experiment folded. But yeah, I didn't realize that Mozilla had their own email servers, which is really cool. It's probably not what it is. I haven't used Mozilla Thunderbird, but I was just super interested because that's tech. Other really cool and useful things if you want to go archive or looking through your own data and history, because this is, besides translation, this is also just trying to explain how you can really utilize the tools at your disposal. Almost every browser has their own bookmark history and search history. Google is probably one of the most powerful and data invasive, but in comparison to China, it's really small beans. But the thing about having a lot of data archived and being slightly data invasive is the fact that if you know how to use that data and you know how to control that data, it's a really powerful tool to refine like old things and just like go through your history, and you can even clear it up. So one is really cool. You can go to google.myactivity. It'll go through all of your Google accounts on most of your devices, and it's literally just a digital backup of everything you've ever did on the internet. Really cool stuff. Um, Another cool Google or Chrome organization supported tool I liked was the Google Arts and Culture. This is just some really cool stuff. Just if you're interested in art, really powerful, really interesting. Google Sites as well, doodles and whatnot. So just a quick, if you were wondering what these tabs were, these were just my resources tabs. Um, I translated a total of 3, and these are the only 2. So just a quick note, and this is probably just going to be a footnote. This is the videos. So the video on translation has already ended, but I'm just quickly going over just some of the stuff that's going in this video. So this is just the digits of pi. I remember doing research on the digits of pi for another video, and I was really surprised at how many Asians started doing mathematics in the beginning. Like you don't learn a lot. Like when you learn about mathematics, you learn a lot about the Western mathematicians and how they calculate the digits of pi. Like I think everyone, if you're just amateur, or at least for me, I kind of knew Archimedes did math. I knew Vitruvius did math, and Anaxagoras I've heard about. A lot of these Indian and Egyptian and just Middle Eastern or West Asian people I didn't really know about. And then obviously the Asians did math and pi, but I was really surprised at just how many people in Chinese mathematicians contributed to pi. I mean, I think most people in just world history are aware that there's a lot of very strong Islamic mathematicians that contributed, right? Euclid's pretty famous in terms of Greek. But I was just surprised. It makes sense though, because Chinese are an old country, and historically this is probably one of their foundations. But it's very interesting. And then as you get into the later centuries, most of the mathematicians are generally coming from Europe or European influenced countries as well. But that's just the state of the country as it is. And then this tab right here is on my Heroes Research tab, which is a really cool guy that I will cover a little later. But if you're interested, that's his thing. So yeah, hopefully I chose the right guy. Yes, I did choose the right guy. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna quickly give this another go. Oh yeah, so he says image translation is temporarily unavailable to exceeding funding. And the reason why that is because Google obviously has a very powerful tool that they developed for developers. But in order to use their tool, there are quotas because they're a data company, and they got to make money somehow and offset the costs. So they set a quota on how many people can use their servers at once and how many times per day, right? They refresh it because they want to be able to get more users to do it. So if you're doing some really data intensive stuff, you could use their tools. But for the most part, they don't have infinite computing power, so they have to limit it. I know that NVIDIA is doing their own stuff with machine learning but I don't know if they're, and I think their API is readily accessible as well. So that's the end of video 1. I'm just going to quickly take a break and put a cut here, and I'll start on video 2 for a thing. So if you really came for translation, which is one, there's a guy in particular that I made this video. A little bit of procrastination, a little bit because for other reasons. But for now, this is probably going to be the end of this first video. I'll probably make a separate video on this site by itself, or maybe I'll just copy paste it in, one of the two. But I'll definitely be covering this site, really powerful site. And yeah, I'll just be putting a quick cut or break in this video.